So 2 days ago, John Campea on his show basically did a topic, or talked about a topic that he uploaded individually in a clip, where he talked about how piracy was rising up globally, basically spiking globally, if you will, in 2025, all due to the streaming woes, if not the streaming increases going around. And look, piracy has always been a thing that's been around and will still be around for a long time. And the same can go for VPNs. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. The reason they're going up isn't just because of the fact that, well, streaming prices just continue to rise. It's not just that. It's also the fact that basically a lot of these streaming platforms are not giving people what they want. If you advertise that you are probably the one and only be-all, end-all of streaming, where you can find just about everything, then to the consumer, you need to live up to that name. In other words, basically, if you say you're going to be the home for, let's say, classic animation of Warner Brothers or MGM or Hanna-Barbera, or you're going to be the home of classic anime that you haven't seen in 50, 40, 70, 50, 40, 70, 60 years, if you will, 20 years, 30 years, if you say you're going to be the home of that, then you need to live up to it. If you say basically that everything under your umbrella, everything that's in your library, and everything that is licensed to you, everything that you put into the vault that you've acquired, if you say all that's going to be showcased, then showcase it. And most importantly, if you say it's only going to be for one price that overall you can afford and it's not going to destroy your wallet, then you need to stick to that price forevermore in the eyes of the consumer. But because things like that are not reality anymore, it's basically causing, a lot of people to essentially give up the streaming services and go the piracy route. That's what it's doing. And it's not the piracy route, it's the VPN route. Because basically, again, if you say you're the be-all, end-all, you need to prove it. But this is where basically I think, this is basically where I think people have to understand that piracy and VPNing is not going to last that much longer. Now, I'm not going to say that it's going to end tomorrow or it's going to end next year or within the next few years. No. But there's no doubt in my mind, as I've talked about before, when it came to the WWE ESPN situation, there's no doubt in my mind that a lot of governments, a lot of studios, a lot of companies overall that basically take notice of piracy and VPNing, there's no doubt in my mind that they are basically thinking in their minds, they're coming up with ideas, plans to try to negate the VPNing, to try to negate the piracy. Because if you're a company like, let's say, Warner Brothers Discovery, or Warner Brothers in general, and your primary source of income is HBO Max, and people are like, well, I don't want to watch HBO Max anymore because it's too expensive. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go and I'll pirate HBO Max. Or I'll pirate the shows off HBO Max, and I don't have to worry about paying, $16.99 or $17.99 or $12.99 a month or whatever it is. If they feel that's pretty much killing their wallet, they're going to go in that direction until basically in their mind HBO Max comes out and says it's only going to be $5.99 a month. That's all you have to pay. Until they hear something like that, people are going to go this route. Or until something like Netflix, whether it's integrated into your cable or DirecTV Dish Network system like mine is, basically, if Netflix doesn't live up to the hype of being a be-all, end-all of streaming services, it's going to lose, it's going to lose out financially to piracy, as well as regionally, it's going to lose out financially, regionally, country-wise, to VPNs. And it's going to hurt them. Because basically you say you're this, but you're not. You say you're this, but you're not. And that's what gets on people's nerves, because you're not telling them the truth. You're not being honest with them about, being the place where they can find just about everything. So to me, it's more about not just, the price increase. It's more about not living up to your promise of being the be-all, end-all of, for streaming when it comes to whatever is licensed to you to stream, or whatever is under your vault and in your umbrella, under your housing, if you will, that you could just let loose and let people watch. One of the primary things people are not happy about, but actually looking at it now, are pretty much enjoying it, even though it's ad-supported, is that Warner Brothers decided to take off the Looney Tunes, the classic Looney Tunes, from HBO Max. But thankfully, Tubi, that's T-U-B-I, Tubi, has come in and said, yeah, we'll take them. We'll take the Looney Tunes library. And not only have they taken the Looney Tunes library, and mainly also taken with it a lot of the shorts that have been restored, remastered, cleaned up and all that, the ones you would find on Blu-ray, maybe 4K and all that. But they're also including animation shorts from Looney Tunes that were not on HBO Max to begin with. And those were, Aloha, those were like, let's say, Aloha, I'm trying to think of the word. Think of the name. Aloha Hui, and the other was Swooner Crooner. Neither of those were never on HBO Max. Now they're on Tubi. It's part of a 30-minute package, episodic. Well, not episodic, but they're episode-wise, if you will, episodic episodes. But it's just compilations. But what I'm getting at, ladies and gentlemen, basically, is that fans, even outside of that, were upset with HBO Max because they took Looney Tunes away. And thus they're going to give up, and thus that's a reasoning to them, not totally, to consider getting rid of HBO Max and just piracy, or just pirating a lot of the product that's on there. And if there's something that's not on HBO Max in the region, it's going to cause them to say, well, you said you'd have this, and it's part of your library, but you don't. Guess what? I'm going to VPN. And financially, either way, it's going to cost them money. And they don't like that. They never will like that, period. They don't like that, and they never will like that. The thing is, at the end of the day, it's just about the streaming services not living up to the promises they made when they first began. That's what it is. This is, and here's the thing too. People say that physical media is a dying breed, but it's making a comeback. Not just from a nostalgic standpoint, but it's making a comeback, period, because of the fact that a lot of these streaming outlets, and this is where the VPN and the piracy come into play even stronger, a lot of these streaming outlets take away, certain movies and programs that they were watching. They were in the progress of watching on something like Netflix, on something like HBO Max, something like Disney Plus, and so on. They're taking them away, and they don't like that. So what do? What do? They go and see if they can find it on DVD, and then guess what? Or DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, and then they buy it. They end up buying it and everything and having it for their own. They end up buying it, and that takes away financially from the streaming platform. And then if that's not all, if they hear by word, by word of mouth that, hey, the movie's still on HBO Max, or the show's still on HBO Max, but in another region, they're going to go the VPN route. They're going to go the VPN route because that way they can watch that movie, or they can finish off watching that show, even if it's even if it's from another region. Point I'm getting at, ladies and gentlemen, is this. The reason people are going this route is because they want, these streaming platforms to live up to what they promised. Not just a low cost point subscription-wise, monthly and annually, but also having everything under the one umbrella that they said they would do or have. Make sure everything is there. But again, it's because of those broken promises that, things are not, is the reason things like piracy are going up, VPNing is going up, the return and resurgence of physical media of any kind is going up. It's all because of these broken promises. And if I'm Netflix, I'm HBO Max, I'm Disney Plus, I'm Paramount Plus, I'm Prime Video, and so on and so forth. If I'm any one of them, I'm Crunchyroll, if you will, if I'm Peacock, if I'm any one of them, and I say, hey, I'm going to be the be-all, end-all, then I need to go back to being that. I need to say, hey, we hear you, we're going to restore everything back on here, and we're going to make sure it never leaves. And we hear you price-wise, we're going to lower the price. That's what people want. And that's what they hope that these companies hear. That's what they want, and that's what they hope these companies hear. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, it's all about the broken promises. I mean, again, piracy has been around for a while. This is why things like DVD Fab were a thing, because of the fact that movies were too much. DVDs and even Blu-rays, but mostly DVDs when they first came out were too much. So what did people do? They would get software like DVD Fab and copy these movies if they were copyable so they could have them for themselves because it was too much. That's why you saw a decrease in DVDs. Not just because of Blu-rays arriving and 4K Blu-rays arriving, but because of the fact that people were taking money away from the studio. But anyway, in my opinion, that's why these things are going up. But I guarantee you, in time, a lot of these studios and even the government, they're going to take notice and they're going to limit the piracy and the VPNing, just like they did with things like DVD Fab. They took that software away and software like it. They're going to do the same here. It's just not a matter of when and where. Just a matter of time, and you'll start seeing the signs of that happening. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment down below, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, ring the bell for notification, share the video. Also, click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere. And until then, I'm out.